Looks like I'm back now, so we're doing this thing. So, the very first topic I'd like to discuss on the Insomniac Variety Hour is the Australia wildfires. And this one hits home with me. It's the first of many highly controversial statements that'll come out of my mouth on this program, but I believe that the existence of wildlife and biodiversity in general is a good thing. Crazy, I know, but try not to cancel me just yet. There'll be plenty of time for that later. And I'd like to start by honoring the real hero of the situation, the world's billionaires. Starting with Kylie Jenner, who posted an Instagram story about how tragic the loss of wildlife was, immediately followed by her flexing her $1,000 mink slippers on her fans. Truly a bastion of empathy and care for others coming from our planet's youngest self-made billionaire. However, she did donate a full milli after the backlash she caught, so it's nice to know that through enough bullying, you can make the world a better place, at least to some degree. But maybe we could have gotten some more money for the Amazon rainforest fires if one of the Jenners had tried flexing a fur coat at the time. But speaking of the Amazon, let's talk about its CEO. Oh my gosh, the entire Film Academy just burst into the studio with my Oscar for writing that transition. I'd like to thank all my parents, my friends, and the insane number of uncontrollable wildfires that occurred recently for making such excellent work possible. Now, back to my man Jeff. Metal Jeff donated a whopping 1 million Australian dollars, or approximately 690,000 American, to help battle the inferno that the country's become. Obviously, this is nothing to scoff at, but the man makes roughly 3,200 per second. As a high IQ Carleton student with access to some very powerful computing equipment, I've calculated that this is approximately 3.6 minutes of work for him. If you can even call it that. The vast majority of this man's wealth comes from owning a meager 80 million shares of Amazon stock, so he doesn't even have to directly exert effort to collect these fat stacks besides take away Whole Foods workers' health benefits. Now I'd like to compare him to Kaylin Ward, the Instagram model who sold nudes for donation to the cause, and reined in well over $1 million. The stunt cost her Instagram account, the respect of her family, and a possible relationship if her Twitter feed is to be believed. Yet she persisted anyway. Her methods were unorthodox, but she's undoubtedly come forward as one of the greatest heroes of this crisis. Thank you, Kaylin. May your name be memorized. Now back to Jeff. Let's apply the same standards as Jeff set to an average salt-of-the-earth man such as myself. I used to work summers as a landscaper/property maintenance laborer, making around $10 an hour. If I were to donate the same portion of my income as the actual richest man in the world, worth over $116 billion, I would be forced to part ways with a devastating 60 cents. Obviously, it's his money and he can do what he wants, but are you serious, my guy? You can't even part way with your equivalent of a crisp dollar bill? And this isn't just me upset about one of the most powerful figures in the world seemingly not caring about an ecological catastrophe of doomsday proportions, although that is admittedly most of it. But I'm also confused about it from a business standpoint. Amazon alone increased its revenue in the Australian servers by an almost unbelievable 1,500% in 2019, raking in 17 million then and 292 million last year. Clearly, there's an enormous potential for growth in this market, so shouldn't saving lives and money be a priority for him, even if he only sees them as potential dollar signs? I can't imagine being one of the thousands of people whose homes have been annihilated, who are choking on smoke hundreds and thousands of miles away from this tragedy, and thinking, during the terrible process of watching your world turn to ash around you, "Ah, honey, now that our land is uninhabitable, and we have to rebuild our home from the ground up, have you considered signing up for Amazon Prime?" Now, I'm about to do something very cliche and quote Spider-Man, but please bear with me. When you can do the things that you can, and you don't, bad things happen because of you. That is the greatest tragedy in all of this. There's so many people in this world who indisputably have the means to stop these bad things from happening, yet they don't. And when they don't, people, plants, and animals die by the millions, hundreds of millions, and now even billions. And while we're on the topic of taking responsibility, let's discuss how Amazon's business model contributes to climate change, the very phenomena that caused an entire continent to spontaneously combust in the first place. According to UPS, shipping with Amazon requires them to decrease their packages delivered per mile because they aren't able to wait until they have a full truck to go out for delivery, and the numerous planes it takes to get boxes across the country and around the world overnight aren't helping the world's air quality in the slightest. With increased speed comes decreased efficiency, and the world can't stand to be any less efficient right now. Therefore, you'd think the man could accept a bit of responsibility, or at the very least put some change into lessening the devastation he's helped cause. And finally, I'd like to address my man's charitable donations in their entirety, because it would be unfair to dogpile the world's least poor man and act like he doesn't contribute anything. According to a Business Insider article that just happened to be absolutely littered with ads for Amazon services, the Mad Lad donated a whopping $100 million to charity to help fight the good fight against family homelessness. Truly a cause we can all get behind. He even gave the sizable pack of cheddar with no strings attached, letting the charity spend it however they believe will be the most effective, a move I personally respect. However, what if I told you that Jeff didn't actually care about fighting poverty and homelessness? A crazy statement, I know, but hear me out. While I can't make decisive judgments on the content of one's character from such a detached perspective, I can certainly make an educated guess. Data from an article on The Verge in April of 2019 states that Amazon has approximately 125,000 warehouse workers and over 75 fulfillment centers throughout the United States. And if ZipRecruiter can be counted as a reputable source, they're pulling in an average of a little over $31,000 per year in revenue. To put this number into perspective, the median American income in 2016 was nearly 60 grand, which is barely enough to live comfortably by in many mainland states. The federal poverty level is currently $22,000 for a family of 3 and $26,000 for a family of 4, which means that if a one breadwinner family's sole paycheck comes from Amazon, they're actively on the brink of taking advantage of the very charity their employer donates to. How does this man have the audacity to act like he cares about the problems faced by modern working-class Americans, the very people whose shoulders he rode on to success, when the man who's the country's 25th largest landowner in 2017 purchased a 27,000 square foot DC mansion for the thrift store price of a mere $23 million? Now I could go on all night about wages. For God's sake, I only looked at one of Jeff's companies. Lord knows he's got enough of them. But it's also worth mentioning that he owes the Washington Post and has kept an involvement in its content to a minimum, which is a valuable service to the free press. But in conclusions, lads and lasses, it seems as though I've exhausted both my notes and my willingness to hear my own voice, which means the self-righteous monologue portion of the show is over. So time for a few more jams, and maybe I'll take phone calls in a minute as the night goes on. Thank you so much for listening, and I appreciate it. Alright, hello everybody. I am going to try and get the phone working without leaving 4 seconds of radio silence. So, here we go. Alright, try talking. Okay, speak, people. Okay, yeah, this isn't working at all. So, hold on a minute. And I can tell you all more about my day. Isn't that just lovely? So it started out by me waking up at a time probably, and does this work? Okay, people on the phones, try talking again. Alright, yeah. They kind of just left me high and dry here, and I don't appreciate it, but we'll do the best with what we've got and see what we can do. So I'm gonna play more music and try and figure out the buttons.